Welcome back. It's been a while. I know I've missed out on making some episodes. I've been doing a little bit of TikToks, and I've been doing a lot of drinking on TikTok. But I'm the Bar Basement Baudelaire. Basically, what my channel is all about is cocktails and criticism. I'm going to be talking. We talk a little bit about a lot of things because I know a little bit about a lot of things. Hopefully, some of you can chime in, add to the discussion, fill in some of my gaps where I sort of miss some information. Today, I'm going to be talking about an author whose anniversary of his death was yesterday, June the 10th, and that's Robert E. Howard. It was his 88th anniversary of his passing, and I'm honoring him with his favorite beverage, alcoholic beverage, which was beer. So, welcome to the channel. And here's a little bit about just bare biographical notes about Robert E. Howard. Robert Howard was born in 1906 in Texas, primarily West Texas. He would generally move from town to town because his father was a doctor, but he was not as close to his father as he was to his mother. His mother sort of encouraged him to read and to write poetry, and she encouraged his artistic side. Howard was an athlete. He enjoyed boxing. He enjoyed most athletic endeavors. He was an avid weightlifter, but he was very attached to his mother. He died in 1936. His mother was terminally ill, and he was having a hard time with that terminal illness. And when his mother was at the very end stages of that terminal illness, as a matter of fact, she was on her deathbed, and he chose to end his life. So he went outside and out of the house. So he was not in the house when he did that. But Howard was really famous for his Conan stories. He wrote for the pulps mainly, but he wrote boxing stories. He wrote other fantasy stories. Solomon Kane was another one of his long-running stories. He wrote a lot of Solomon Kane stories. He was getting into writing westerns when he passed away. He was kind of taking a break from writing Conan. So, cheers to Robert. Just to give you a little bit of context about my background, I have a master's degree in literature. I know a lot of people that doesn't really hold a lot of water, but and a lot of people are, why would you get a master's degree in something that you can't really monetize? I went to college for the acquiring of knowledge. I didn't go to college. I didn't think of going to college for a career. There's a background there, and as I go through my channel, I'll get into that a little bit more. But one of the things that I was always very troubled by in the academic community is the pretentiousness that a lot of the academics have towards genre writers, and in particular genre writers from the first quarter of the 20th century in the pulps, where you have your fantasy and science fiction and your crime noir and your your horror and your westerns and those types of writers are really ignored by the academic crowd. And I really kind of feel like it, not necessarily if you're looking at, because I don't know what kind of popular fiction was being published in Europe at the time. I only ever studied the literary fiction. So I don't know what the throwaway fiction was in France, or even if they had any of that in the 20s and the 30s. I would speculate that there was a lot of pretentiousness there as well. This, by the way, is just so you know what I'm drinking here. So we got the cocktail part of this out of the way. This is just Lone Star Light, and I chose Lone Star because Robert Howard is a Texas author. I find that Robert Howard was far and away one of the better writers of the early 20th century. And I'm putting that on par with people like Hemingway and Fitzgerald and Langston Hughes and the like. Now I know, before you English majors come at me, there's been a lot of academic research and criticism and critical studies of these writers. And yes, I mean, I have a degree, so I obviously agree that Hemingway was a literary giant. And I happen to really like Frank Norris, and I happen to think that he was pretty good. And I think Edith Wharton was fantastic, but the quality of the writing that you see from a lot of those genre writers that were being published in those pulps is just as good, if not on par. I challenge any of you who have never sat down and really read anything by H.P. Lovecraft or by Robert Howard. I challenge you to do so. The language, the pacing, the character development, all of those things that we kind of harp on when we're being sat down in a classroom setting, and the things that we analyze and the things that we critique are all there, and they're all in really exceptional quality. I mean, I have I bought this at Barnes & Noble, and at Barnes & Noble, they have the tables in the front with all of the fake leather bound editions like this, and they're usually like 10 or 15 bucks. That's where I got this. This is the complete Conan Chronicles. Unfortunately, it is lacking all of the other great stories of Robert E. Howard. But to just talk about Conan, it would be just the tip of the iceberg with him, and that's really all I'm going to have time for in this video, because I notice some of my videos tend to be a little bit long, so I'm going to try to shorten them a bit. But much like Tolkien, who created an entire fantasy universe, Howard does very much the same, and he didn't have he wasn't able to take the time that Tolkien took. He was churning these stories out. He was trying to earn money. So his drafts were few and far. I mean, he would maybe write 2 drafts of a story. There's a couple of stories in this collection that was the first draft and it went out. So the whole story of Conan is interesting. I like that it kind of flies in the face of the Joseph Campbell mythology, where this is sort of a barbarian, is this outlander, this outsider, who through sheer will, cunning, and physical force and athletic prowess is able to acquire this mythological like status and kingdom. The building of that myth throughout the stories is fantastic. There are 3 stages of Conan stories. The early Conan stories are a little bit more raw. The later Conan stories are probably the better stories. The middle Conan stories seem to be a little bit more formulaic. I do enjoy the first stories a little bit more because they feel like there's a newness to them. And I'm going to kind of compare it to the Star Wars movies that George Lucas did, the first ones, the first ones that he threw out, the what became Episode 4, and then Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Whereas a lot of Star Wars fans, and I'm one of, will tell you that Empire is the best Star Wars movie. I think that if you look at it from the perspective of building the story, the first one is still, the 77 is still the most fantastic, because it was something so new and so different and so interesting. And it was not done before. Robert Howard pretty much created the sword and sorcery genre. There is no Tolkien without Robert E. Howard. So there are a lot of debts that these writers owe to the things that he did. The whole world building that Howard crafted is on par. Obviously, I've been drinking a little bit of these, but I just wanted to end this little nod to Robert E. Howard. This is in no means a full-on critique or a full-on exploration. I've got one of those coming down the line where I go into specific stories. I just wanted to kind of give a nod out to the guy, because this time of year I always kind of go back and think about a couple of his stories that I've read. He enjoyed life. That's the thing I'm getting at. The man himself, and you can see that in the things that he wrote. The stories are stories that you would want to sit around and listen to and enjoy. And I think that is one of the main principles of why I believe that Robert Howard is an author that we should maybe be going back and revisiting in a more structured manner. I think that academically we would get a lot out of what he's all about. And I think that the whole concept of enjoying the story kind of hits more home to me now than it did when I first started reading his writing when I was in my early to middle teens. I believe the first story I read of Conan was one of the the L. Sprague de Camp ones that he kind of started writing his own and of course republishing. So I don't know if the first one I read was one of his or one of Robert Howard's actual stories. So I can't tell you for sure, but I do know that I was reading a lot, like Conan the Warrior, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Buccaneer, all of those old ones. I think Lancer Press, I think, was the one that published them. And then I think the 60s was when they were being churned out, and I would find them at, used bookstores and whatnot. But I think there's a good lesson there in the enjoyment of the story in and of itself, and I think that it's something that I'm really interested in pursuing here on out. When I do one of these videos, if you're following me on TikTok and when I do one of those, I am going to stop talking about the things that I don't like, the things that irritate me, or the things that annoy me, or the writing that I'm not fond of, or the music that I'm not fond of. I'm going to start sharing the things that I really enjoy, the things that give me joy, and sharing them with you guys, because I think that there's far too much negativity going around out there. There's not enough joy. So Robert E. Howard's stories give me joy. If you've never read one, give it a try. See if you like it. And if you do, I'm glad you do, and I hope that you read more. And if you don't, hopefully at some point, if you're following me on these, you find something that will give you a little bit of joy. So to that, I say a good night. Cheers. I'm going to enjoy this. There's been a few out of this 6-pack that I've had already. So cheers. And until next time, I'll see you.